NHK World Network Tokyo. It's 9 hours in Japan time, midnight UTC. I'm Takahito Kobayashi with the news. And headlines. A Republican splinter group has claimed the responsibility for the bomb attack in Northern Ireland on Saturday. Russia has asked the Export-Import Bank of Japan to extend $800 million in loans this year. And Prime Minister Keizo Obuchi indicates the planned corporate tax cut will cover small and medium-sized firms as well. Now, the main news in detail. A Republican splinter group has claimed the responsibility for the bomb attack that killed 28 people and injured over 200 in Northern Ireland on Saturday. A group called the Real IRA made the admission on Tuesday in a telephone call to a newspaper office in Dublin using a recognized code word. A statement said that the group had issued 3 warnings before the blasts. The group also said that it was not their intention at any time to kill civilians. The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Moran, rejected the apology as a pathetic attempt to apologize for and excuse mass murder. She said that the sole responsibility lies with the bombers. The Real IRA was formed by defectors from the Irish Republican Army who oppose April's peace agreement that provides for power sharing between Protestants and Catholics in Northern Ireland. It's been learned that Russia has asked the Export-Import Bank of Japan to extend $800 million in loans this year by advancing a 2-year schedule. Sources said that the request was made in an urgent letter to Prime Minister Keizo Obuchi, which arrived on Tuesday. In the letter, Russian Prime Minister Sergei Kiriyenko is said to have mentioned that the World Bank increased its loans to Russia in early August. Mr. Kiriyenko is said to have made the request to move up the dates for extending the loans. He reminded Japan that during his visit in July, the government promised to offer support in line with the decisions made by the World Bank. The Export-Import Bank is scheduled to extend the loans totaling $1.5 billion by the end of the next fiscal year. According to this original schedule, $200 million will be extended by December. But in the letter, Russia asked for $300 million by the end of August and $500 million by the end of the year. Although concerns have been expressed in some quarters about extending loans, the Japanese government has said that it hopes to cooperate as much as possible with Russia's request. Prime Minister Keizo Obuchi has indicated that the planned corporate tax cut will cover small and medium-sized firms as well. He was responding to a question from the Communist Party's head of the Secretariat, Kazuo Ishii, at the Lower House Budget Committee session on Tuesday. Mr. Ishii pointed out that the corporate tax cut the government is now considering will not benefit the small and medium-sized firms. Mr. Obuchi said the tax reductions will not be only for large firms. He said he wants to give due consideration so that small and medium-sized firms can enjoy tax cuts as well. Later in the session, Finance Minister Kiichi Miyazawa indicated that he is open to revisions to the bills on revitalizing the financial industry in order to pass them as soon as possible. He was responding to a question by the General Secretary of the Social Democratic Party, Shigeru Ito, on the functions of the proposed organizations to deal with defunct financial institutions. Mr. Miyazawa said the objective of the government-proposed bills on bridge banks is to effectively write off the bad loans of defunct financial institutions. Japan's Economic Planning Agency says it is no exaggeration to say that the whole country is in a recession. In its bi-monthly report, the agency says 7 out of the nation's 10 regional economies are still stagnant and in very severe condition. It notes particularly that the slump is increasingly affecting northern Honshu and Kyushu. Their major industries, semiconductors and automobiles, are suffering further falls in production. The agency's chief, Taichi Sakaya, said on Tuesday that this latest report is more straightforward than the previous ones. He said this will make it easier to people to understand the present economic situation. He stressed that the agency recognizes the economy is suffering a severe slump throughout the nation. Mr. Sakaya predicted that this is likely to continue for a while due to the sluggish sales of new cars and unseasonable weather. Now, here is the frequency notice. You are listening to Radio Japan, broadcasting on 11.705 MHz, being relayed to eastern part of North America via Sackville, Canada. This transmission is also related to Europe via Skeleton, England on 6.155 and 6.180 MHz, and to Central Africa via Ascension Island in the Atlantic on 9.665 MHz. Listeners in Asia can also hear this transmission until 15 hours UTC on 11.815 and 13.650 MHz. Now, other news. Indonesian President Muhyiddin Habibie has agreed with a senior Japanese lawmaker that their countries should help resolve the Asian economic crisis by stabilizing their own financial systems. The former Policy Research Council chairman of Japan's governing Liberal Democratic Party, Takahito, is now visiting Indonesia. He gave President Habibie a letter from Prime Minister Keizo Obuchi at a meeting on Tuesday. Prime Minister Obuchi says in the letter that he hopes Indonesia can promote democracy and other political reforms and rebuild its economy. Mr. Yamasaki said that the coming week could be the most difficult ever for the Japanese and other Asian economies as share prices continue to plunge in Japan. But he noted that the Japanese government is poised to keep some major banks from going under, and so prevent any possible impact on the Asian economy. Mr. Yamasaki also said the government is putting top priority on stabilizing the monetary system. President Habibie said he supports Japan's bank policy, and their failure would have grave consequences. Mr. Habibie said Indonesia's financial crisis was caused by its lack of reserve funds. He said this government will try to stabilize the economy by ensuring steady production. A senior member of Myanmar's military government met the chairman of the country's opposition National League for Democracy for the first time in more than a year on Tuesday. The first secretary of the military government, Kim Myint, invited the NLD chairman Aung Shue to the defense ministry. Mr. Kim Myint said in a statement that they hope this will be the first in a series of confidence-building talks between the government and the NLD. The NLD confirmed that the meeting had taken place, but did not give any further comment. The leader of the NLD, Aung San Suu Kyi, who began her latest protest against the military government last Wednesday, did not comment on the meeting. The meeting is believed to have been aimed at easing the pressure on the military government from the international community. The Japan External Trade Organization says that the volume of North Korean gold exports increased by more than 500% last year. A JETRO report released on Tuesday said that North Korea shipped nearly 15 tons of gold, valued at $141 million to Hong Kong, their sole export destination. In value terms, gold exports increased by 450% from the previous year. The vast increase suggests that North Korea was raising funds to buy food to make up for an acute shortage. The report puts the value of crop imports by North Korea at $286 million last year, a 67% increase over the previous year. The sharp increase in gold exports boosted the total amount of North Korea's two-way trade by 10% to $2,490 billion. Trade between North Korea and Japan fell for the second straight year to $473 million. The decline of 8.2% was caused by the continued fall in imports from Japan. Japan was North Korea's second largest trading partner in terms of value after China. Specialists from 11 nations and regions have completed talks on a plan to construct a gas pipeline from Siberia to Japan. The proposed pipeline would run through Mongolia, China, and the Korean Peninsula. Over 150 specialists from 11 nations and regions, including Japan, China, and Mongolia, met in Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia. A statement issued on Tuesday said that the participants had agreed to organize an international joint research mission and a study group as soon as possible. A second meeting will be held in Moscow next year. The Vietnamese government has issued a temporary ban on rice exports because of a prolonged drought and the fears for domestic food security. Rice exporters are now forbidden from entering contracts to ship rice after August 15th. Vietnam is one of the world's largest rice exporters, having transformed itself from a net importer of rice in the late 1980s. During the first 7 months of this year, Vietnam exported 2.23 million tons of rice, but the extended drought has seriously damaged the summer crop and driven domestic rice prices sky high. The unemployment rate in Hong Kong hit a 15-year high of 4.8% in the May-July period. Government officials said that about 161,000 people were unemployed out of a labor force of 3.3 million. The rate of 4.8% marks a 0.4 percentage point increase from the April-June period, and is the highest figure since 1983. The officials said that the key factors behind the increase in unemployment were the economic downturn, an uncertain business outlook, company downsizing, and new graduates and school leavers entering the job market. They said unemployment will stay high as long as the external environment remains uncertain. Well, finally, let's take a look at the top stories at this hour. A Republican splinter group has claimed the responsibility for the bomb attack that killed 28 people and injured over 200 in Northern Ireland on Saturday. It's been learned that Russia has asked the Export-Import Bank of Japan to extend $800 million in loans this year by advancing a 2-year schedule. And Prime Minister Keizo Obuchi has indicated that the planned corporate tax cut will cover small and medium-sized firms as well. That's the news from Radio Japan. Kobayashi. Next follows our weekday medicine program. Radio Japan is so please